And so there's a lot of things happening in this statement. First, let's identify the P's and Q's. So in this case, we have two P's and Q's. So we have the statement that says, do not be a borrower. And that's going to be a P, right? And then we have a statement that says, do not be a lender. And of course, that's going to be Q. So finally, we have what we like to call a conjunction. And here we have our conjunction. And you remember how it's spelled? It's spelled as AND. So we got our P and Q. But if you think that's just the way this compound statement is phrased, you would be wrong, and you would probably lose points if you're taking the test. If it told you to write out what this English word is saying in a logical sense, or component form. And so we call it common form, component form. It all just means the same thing. And that's what we need to learn. So it's right here. It says not. Remember we learned is not? And what does that mean? That means the negation. So we have the negation. And so what did we learn? We learned that the negation sign looks like an N. And so this means not to, because it has right here. So we broke down our statement, or we could say compound statement, right? Because it's two separate components, P and Q, or statements, and or phrases. You know, we could go on a long list of how to say it. Let's carry on. Negation P and negation Q. Alright, so what do you think about this statement? Try to ponder it for a little bit. Have you ever read Shakespeare before? Shakespeare had a strange way of writing. He had his way of his own way of writing. That's the best way I could explain it. He was a man of words, and so that's what we're gonna do. And so I'm gonna read it off right here. What it says. It says, when Shakespeare wrote, neither a borrower nor a lender be. So that's the words of Shakespeare, right? But we're not going to write in that old English, right? He meant do not be a borrower and do not be a lender. And so the best way I could explain it to you, when he said neither nor, he said neither a borrower nor a lender. And that's the same thing that we could have wrote. So another example of using these words, we could write neither nor. So he had his own special way of writing stuff. I'm going to write out the example that is given to us so you can understand it. And so we learn about the but, and then we learn about the neither, which I'm going to write it out now, since we understand this part, right, the example. So it just means that we could have wrote it out as neither P nor Q. So is not P, is not Q, which means is not P and not Q, or the negation P and negation Q. And so in math, like in many disciplines, in a lot of ways we could write things that just mean the same thing. Like, let me use a phrase that you're familiar with. We use in calculus and algebra, right? We use the power rule, the one where we have two, or not two, we have an arbitrary element, or in this case it's just a number, And we have something that powers it, and we're going to say n, right? We could use a lot of different words to express this. Instead of power, we could say exponent. The different phrases and words, because this is how you speak. This is how you speak mathematically. And so that was how the first section was all about, getting the hang of understanding how to speak mathematically. So let me go over this one more time. So we were trying to express how to say is not as neither nor, and so that's what we did. We broke down this phrase / statement, compound statement, into its component forms. And so you can see right here we got our components, and then we expressed it in terms of Shakespearean language, which is another way we speak in math in terms of proofs. And so we say neither P nor Q means the same as negation P and negation Q. Alright, so we have an example here, and so we're going to do this for this example. We're going to write each of the following sentences symbolically, letting H be it is hot and S it is sunny. So let's do that. If you feel free to pause the video and try it yourself. So we've been having a lot of practice right now. So let's see right here. We have two independent, what do you say, clauses, or two different phrases, two different components, two different sentences. So right here, let's break it into our components. And so that we could denote them as, what do you call it, statements. But it's already done for us, so that's already half the work, right? So that it is hot. So we know that it is H. So over here, it says it is neither hot. So that's going to be H2, right? And so we're going to go over here, it says it is sunny. And what is that? That is S. And they cleverly denote them as H or S for hot and S for sunny. Nor sunny, so. And so I want you to really take a note of how they phrase it, how these words can work in your sentence structure for wording proofs and reading definitions. So it says it is not hot. So what does that mean? We have an H. So that means we're going to have the negation is not hot, or is not H. And then we have this conjunction word. This word that says but. And what do we know about but? It's similar to the word end. And then what do we know about end? It's going to have this right here, this symbol. And so we could think of A, B, C, D, right? So what follows after A follows B. So we know that end follows by but. And so you could think of that mnemonically to remember that. That just means this symbol. And so it says it is sunny. And so if you feel like you understand this, feel free to try this on your own. So now we're going to break it down, right? Let's see. We already have the components. We're going to break it down in terms of what it is saying as neither nor. And so I'm going to put not, I'm going to put neither, and I'm going to put nor. And then I want to change this to this color, so you could just understand what's going on a little more better. So we're going to start off with the is not, right? Because that's what we learned earlier, right? The is not, or the negation, always goes first. And what happened if we read it? It is hot neither sunny nor. It is hot neither sunny nor. That would just not make any sense grammatically. And so that's why we always have it first. So neither hot nor, so I'll put over here, nor sunny. So what's going on? When we say neither nor, do you remember what the symbol means? It's the same as saying it is not hot and it is not sunny. So then we have to put the and symbol, which I use this color for that. So I hope you understand what's going on here for our two examples. So we have this inequality that says x is less than a. And if you ever had a hard time figuring out what these symbols mean, this is read as less, right? The sign looks like that. And then this sign looks like this. Greater than. So just a way to visualize it. So I hope, just in case, because I know sometimes some people have a hard time remembering or physically thinking of them. You already have a lot of things to remember. So you got x is less than or equal to a, which means, and what does that mean? If we were to break it down to its components, what does it mean? It simply means that x is less than a, or, if I hope you remember, x is equal to a. So it's pretty simple. You know, feel free to fast forward a little bit if you understand. So now we're going to work on our next idea right here. So our next idea says a is less than, right, x and less than b, which means, what does it mean? So let's think. If we were to break this to its components or its separate statements, what does it mean? Well, it simply means that a is less than or equal to x, and that simply means and so I want you to take notice of these two words that we're going to use, or and x is less than or equal to b. And if you want to break it down more, you can, but the whole point of showing this is just so you get the idea, right? These could be broken down too, just how they were broken down up here. This would say a is less than x, or a is equal to x. And this would say x is less than b, or x is equal to b. And so we're not going to break it down anymore. This is good enough, so you can get the idea. 2 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 1. And so I want you to think about that right now. Does this make sense logically? And what does this mean? So let's break it apart. So just for the sake of using a real example, mathematical example, which means, let me use this color. 2 is less than x, less than or equal to x, and 1 is less than or equal to 1. And we could break it down further, but we don't want to break it down further, do we? And so let's think about it. Is this statement true or false? Well, we know that this statement is false no matter what number is plugged into x. And if you want to see that, then I'll show you really quickly. So 2 is less than or equal to 1, right? And that's false. Clearly you see. and this be 1 less than or equal to 1. And that is true, right? But that is false, and therefore our statement is not correct, right? We only need one thing to show that our statement's not true. So right here, this is false. And so it just gives you an idea of how to break it down, and it gives you an idea of understanding truth and false, because this is a big topic that we're going to do. And remember I said take note of these symbols, true and false. Take a look at this example. It says, suppose x is a particular real number. Let p, q, and r symbolize the following inequalities. Respectively, write the following inequalities symbolically. And so, feel free to pause the video and try this on your own. So this just means, right, if you take a look right here, which I want to label them the right way so that you don't get confused. So this just means P, and then this one, pink one, you guessed it, it means Q, and then this last one over here means R. Alright, so what do we gotta do? First we would have to break them apart, right? So I'm gonna break it down to the most basic steps. So that's why we learn about how to break them apart. So let's say right here we broke this apart. What's this mean then? It's going to be x is less than 3. And then what else does it say? It's going to be either or, right? So it's going to say or, right? So x equals 3. And that's not a heart, that's a 3, so don't get that confused. X is less than 3 or x equals 3. And so we understand how that's read. So now let's see over here what that means. So we have a Q, and then we have an OR. So we're going to use this color for OR, and then we're going to have an R. So let's do the next one. So it says x is less than x, and 0 is less than x, and x is less than 3. So let's break it down. What does that mean? 0 is less than x, and so we already figured it out. It says and x is less than 3. So what does that mean for us? That means this is Q, and which I want to use this color again. I like color coding stuff. And this color over there, which means R. And so now we got one more, and feel free to try it. Pretty easy, huh? Oh, this would be an end. My bad. Let's see. Let me change it really quick. There you go. And we all make mistakes. So right here we have our last one. So what is the first step that we do? The first step is to break it apart, right? So we have 0 is less than or equal to x, and x is less than or equal to 3. And so let's break it apart. So 0 is less than or equal to x. And so what do we see right here? Or what do you think you're seeing right now? And this should be a little different, in case you're confused. So that just means 0 is less than x, and this means 0 is less than or equal to, oops, and then this is going to be x is less than or equal to 3. And that's going to be end in the middle. So I'll put n right here. And so there's a pattern here, right? When we have our inequalities bundled together, that means and. When you have just one inequality less than or equal to, that makes an or. And so if we take a look over here, we have another or. And so what do you think is going to happen? We got to break that apart too, huh? Alright, so let's do that. Let's bring down our inequalities. And feel free to, if you wanted to skip some steps and do it faster, you can. I mean, that's usually what people do in math, right? We come up with all these different ideas because we want to do our math faster. So x is less than 3, or, what's their or x is right here. Let's figure it out. X is equal to 3. So, for the sake of plain ignorance, I'm gonna write the end in or, and then I'm gonna pull these down and then change the end in or. And so this just means 0. This means p, right? And now we're changing it all into the symbolic way of saying it. Or in some ways we say it. I'm trying to find the word myself. The common form. And the common form is probably the least likely word you probably would say. You're probably more likely to say symbolically. So that's, I even had a hard time trying to remember what we call it. So we turn it symbolically into letters, right? So last part says r, or r. I'm gonna use this again, or r. And remember what we gotta do, right? It's in parentheses, right? Why we put it in the parentheses? Because what does this mean? This makes no sense logically. And so that's why we're going to have these brackets. And we have one property. It's called the commutative property, right? And you guys are probably familiar with this word. If you remember the commutative property, I'm going to give you an example just in case you don't remember. Let's say we have 2 plus 3. Right? I could say 3 plus 2, and that would mean the same thing, right? 2 plus 3 and 3 plus 2 mean the same thing. They all both give the same results. And so we could do the same thing right here. And we could change the Q or the R. So it would be read like this, my bad. Q or R and P. So it just means the same thing, right? And I hope you understand what's going on. So let's give it some meaning behind it, right? Already has meaning, so let's just use the meaning that it has right there. So we could say x equals 3 or x. So let's read it off. So what does Q mean? Q means x is less than 3 or x equals 3. And we could read it the other way. We could say x equals 3 or x is less than 3. It just means the same thing, right? And we call that the commutative property. If you like this, please subscribe to the channel. Give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this, please let me know in the comments. If you are confused or anything, please let me know. I would do a whole video explaining just that area. And I just want to let you guys know But if you want to see examples, like I said, I'm going to do that. And I was already going to make a video on examples. And if you guys want me to, and everybody that's here watching, and if this is helpful, like I said, please subscribe, because it really helps my channel grow, and I really want to keep making these videos for you guys, or everybody, right? Guys and girls. And it's hard to make these videos when I'm putting a lot of time into it and I don't have a lot of backing. So I just want to put that out there, and I hope that you enjoyed this video, like I said, and I hope that I can see you for the next video. So bye.